All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the American Soccer Council. We have Filippo Silva from Tactical Manager, who I've seen around a few times. Derek Richie, who I'm still going to pronounce your name in a French way because Monsieur Richie de la Straight Red Card, he's here.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate this.
See, there it is. It's legitimate. Good to have you, Derek.
Why is it
and of
so?
course,
It's also looking very foggy at Derek right now.
yeah.
It's
Why so foggy, buddy?
It is always foggy here when you smoke as much as I smoke. You know?
This. Too bad for
Why
you,
does
huh?
he remind me? He reminds me of Eric Cantona for some reason.
Oh yeah, a
I've
little
gotten
bit of
that.
that vibe.
I get that. I get the Belushi thing too.
Okay.
You know, I get a lot of weird stuff.
Well, we're excited to have you, Derek.
Danke.
Marcus, thank you for joining us. Marcus is standing in today for Sam, who had some work this week, so he wasn't able to be on. But he will be back on in the future, guys. Don't you worry. Yank Report will continue to be a part of it. But Marcus, meanwhile, a great guy to have on. Everybody knows you from chasingacup.com, from your Twitter, from your work with refugees and soccer, and a lot of great stuff. Super good to have you, Marcus. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Glad to be on.
So, guys, we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. We are both going to make this retrospective, looking back at the last window. But I also want us to start looking forward because we are about, less than 2 months away from the most crucial 3 games probably in recent soccer history for America. And so we're going to talk a little bit about both. But before we do, does anybody have just general thoughts from this last window or anything they've been like having on their chest that they just want to get out?
I mean, I feel like I've been screaming this from the hills for a long time, but
Hey guys, you need to check out Bounty Sports, which is a totally different way of playing fantasy sports. Instead of picking players like other websites, you pick teams, you compete against other players, and you win cash prizes. Signing up is easy. There's no deposit or credit card needed. And what I like about this is that they've got multiple contests running simultaneously across multiple sports. So the competition I'm going to be participating in is the Premier Pick'em, which is a $3 entry fee, $81 prize. All I got to do is pick my matchups from the Premier League this weekend. Newcastle versus Everton. Everton's got that new coach bounce with Frank Lampard. Newcastle's trying to avoid relegation. I'm going to go for a tie on this one. West Ham will beat Watford, in my opinion. Burnley, I think, could get a tie at home against Manchester United. So I'm going to go with a tie. Manchester City will beat Brentford. That's an easy one. And Josh Sargent, the American Ginger Ninja, is going to help Norwich beat Crystal Palace. Tottenham will beat Southampton. And I think all-conquering Leeds under Marcelo Bielsa will beat Aston Villa. It's that simple. So, guys, if you want to play against me, go use my code 11YANKS. That's 11, no spaces, all caps, YANKS, and get $5 from Bounty Sports for you to use. Come play against me. It's a ton of fun. Don't forget, you can either click the link in the description or use the code 11YANKS when you sign up for Bounty Sports.
I feel like Gregg is he's just letting us know how dogmatic he is. That's the biggest issue right now. You look at that compared to Canada, they're very realistic. They set up for each opponent in a different way if they need to. We don't. We just do the same thing almost every time. If it doesn't work, we don't really change it. We maybe make slight adjustments, but yeah, I mean, it's been pretty. That's not neat. That's not for my background. I have no more kids. All my kids are gone. They're in college. And
I was going to say, is there a body in your basement, Derek?
yeah, that's not
Marcus.
my house. It's got to be Marcus's house.
I got triple threat. I got triple threat here.
Yeah,
Don't worry, Marcus. The triple threat's going to score goals for the USA one day, so we'll put up with it.
I'm old. My kids are gone. But yeah, that's been the most disturbing thing to watch. The fact that the mainstream media and press seem to be going after Gregg as well tells you something when you have Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser going after, Gregg, means that even the people who don't really know that much about soccer are watching this and going, what is this? And they actually called him unlikable on their show. Oh, unlikable? Yeah,
wow.
and they called his whole taking a photo while the game was still going on with the fans. They said that was, I don't know, it was unlikable, is what they said.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to get out of my chest here is just we're arriving at the last camp in not a really we're somewhat it looks comfortable, but it's a little bit
Yeah.
misleading, right? The point differential because of the matchups. We have the toughest window out of
Yeah.
all the other. I'm not counting Canada because Canada is set. They're fine. The other four, so US, Mexico, Panama, and Costa Rica, all the other teams play 2 games at home, 1 away. We play 2 away, 1 at home. All our opponents are direct opponents. These guys don't have all direct opponents. So those are games that can turn out to be a little bit easier, right?
Mhm.
It's very misleading. And we talked about this for so long in 2021, how we were winning trophies, we were getting the job done, but it wasn't sustainable, right? And to say we're in second, which is Gregg getting the job done, is very misleading right now, because why aren't we at least in a situation similar to Canada? That's like the minimum that we should have been right now. Arriving in the last window in a situation where it was very comfortable and that we wouldn't still be having flashbacks of Kuva every freaking time I watch a USA game, because it is worrisome, right? We don't want to get to Costa Rica needing a draw. I think everyone can agree with that. But it could very well get to that situation. It's very possible. So I just want to get that out of the way. Like he said, mainstream media, we've been talking about, I don't think Gregg, I still think Gregg will get us to Qatar, or the US will get to Qatar. But again, this is not the guy, man. I don't understand some people that are still defending. It just isn't the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and look even how bad he's been in recent pressers. He's been so bad he's had to correct himself during pregame, where he
Soft
said
pressers, soft press conferences, right? They're
these are
not challenging
softballs.
them.
But he said, yeah, our goal was to come in second, to stay in second. And then later on, he had to go back and say, I meant first and second. I'm sorry, first or second. I mean, he just can't get it right? Even in these softball pressers. It's bad. It's a bad look.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, why don't we start off by just giving a grade to this last window between A+ and F-. You could take everything into account. However you want to do it is fine. Give a grade and then explain why you gave that grade. Marcus, should we start with you?
Yeah, I struggle with this one because of, the information available, like what, how we want to grade it. I would go as high as a B-, because I expected about 7 points out of this. Canada has been strong. I think we're going to get into the game itself, but I was expecting 7 points. We got 6. I'm not devastated by that. I've got some issues with the game and how it played out, but I was not expecting like a blowout win at Canada. To get 6 points out of this particular window, I didn't think was so far off the mark of my expectations. But how that happened, how we played in El Salvador, how we played against Canada, the roster and how it was built was not built in my mind to win 3 games. So that, obviously hurts the score. But to, defeat Honduras handily, to beat El Salvador, like do what you're supposed to do. Canada, everybody has struggled away to Canada. And I think, when we dive into the game, I'll talk a little bit more about why I think that. But I go B- for this window.
Okay. I'm going to go C, just because for me, when we did our last American Soccer Council, I said 7 points was the bare minimum, especially because Canada were missing 2 out of their 3 best players. Like Eustachio and Davies are, for me, in the top 3 of their players, Jonathan David being the 3rd one. So we're missing the 2 of those, and they still handily beat us. I expected minimum to go there and find a way to get a draw, but Gregg doesn't set up for that. And you can maybe argue that that's admirable, that he wants to play a certain way, that he wants to have the ball, that he wants to be the protagonist. Are you okay there, Derek?
Yeah, I'm all right.
You can make that argument, and I made that argument too. I think the U.S. does need to get used to being the protagonist in games, whether it's home or away. But that isn't a straightforward thing. Oh, we're just going to have possession, and therefore that's going to translate. No, there's having a plan and being flexible and being adaptable. And Gregg, like Derek said, really has not demonstrated yet again that he can do that. And so, and even the fact that we scored in 3 games, we scored 1 goal from open play is still very worrying to me, right? The fact that we keep shunting the ball into wide areas and aimlessly crossing it into the box when we have maybe one guy who's consistently good at crosses, and that's Tim Weah, right? The strategy is worrying, but what's more worrying is that we're so committed to it when it is clearly not working, the way it should be. More importantly, Gregg's, not only his stubbornness, but his doubling down on his terrible takes, like afterwards, saying we dominated Canada, which was not true, saying that we won our battles when by all the stats, we actually didn't win our duels. And then coming back later and saying he watched the tape again and saying that, that he noticed on the rewatch that Canada was sitting in a low block, which I want to hear what your guys' thoughts on this, because I don't genuinely believe he didn't notice that in the game, right? I mean, there's no way you can't have not watched that game standing there live and going, this is what Canada's doing. Did he just misspeak? Somebody tell me.
He should have known that going into the game.
Right.
That's not even something you should notice after you watch the film or during the game. That's how they started the game, and that's how you should have thought they were going to start the game. You got some of their best players missing, Davies and Eustachio. I mean, they're going to play a low block, dude. Come on. How many people already predicted that just going into the game itself? So I gave the window a C as well. I actually gave it a C- because I go back and I look at El Salvador. Well, that was a skimpy ass win. Then I look at Canada, and that was a disaster of inaction and just being, easily handled. It wasn't dominant. I don't care how much you had the ball. You still lost the game, Greg. You lost the game 2-0, Greg. And then we got Honduras, and that was the best game of the window. So I don't know, that's the only B. I gave that game a B. So I thought it was decent, but then there's so many factors in that game that kind of make it kind of repulsive. The fact that we played in the weather the way we had to win the game, that wasn't necessary. What are we trying to level the playing field? I mean, there's so many things about this win. So C- for me. I'm sorry. The guy is broken right now. I think there's something going wrong in his brain. I think that he's inside his own head at this point. He can't even take simple questions at this point without tripping over himself. And I don't want to be this mean. I don't. I really don't. I don't like being mean, but this is it's a bad look. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think you're being mean. I don't. Like, if you were saying that Berhalter is ugly, that would be mean, right? That's a personal attack.
But is he?
Well, he does have a penis.
Now I gotta know.
That's not really that relevant. I don't think what he looks, because I just want a good coach. I don't care what he looks. I'm sure his wife thinks he's a beautiful man.
He's better looking than Bruce Arena. But
my point, though, Derek, is that even the fact that you're having to qualify yourself by saying I'm not trying to be mean is quite interesting, because actually it's. I know we're going to get to Filippo, but I just want to bring this up because you brought it up. We had this article come out on The Athletic. I have not read this article, okay? I'm going to be completely straightforward, but maybe one of you did. Did anybody read this article? Marcus, can you just quickly give us a rundown on this article? Because I think it's important we talk about this. It wasn't on the agenda, but I want to talk about it.
Yeah, so the gist of it, I read it kind of briefly, just kind of scanning it, but Zardes, I want to say Wando, Tim Ream, a couple of the guys kind of spoke into just mostly around sort of just sheer nastiness of fans, personal attacks, just the consistent aggressiveness of fans toward players that are, in many of their opinions, it was around like, hey, we're trying our best, like that's all we can do, or we're good in 9 areas of our game, maybe not the 10th, and people harp on that 10th item that we're weak at. So it's really kind of trying to humanize, I think, that these are people, that they do have feelings, the aggressiveness of fans tagging those individuals and bringing it down on them. Now, if you're objectively, several of them, Reem as well, I think was one of the ones that said, if you're objectively talking about their game, that's one thing, but like the personal attacks and that kind of thing was I think more where they were trying to make the point of.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't read the article. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like I've got a decent handle on at least a sizable portion of the American fan base. I feel like 95% of the criticism is directed towards their game, towards, play on the field. I'm sure there are idiots that, go in there.
We all deal with idiots every day too. And they're just a small percentage.
Yes.
It's like grow a pair. All of
Right.
us get criticized. I've been called all kinds of names. I'm sure
Dude,
you
I've
guys
been
have
compared to both ISIS and Hitler in the last 6 months. I just wanna
Exactly.
Bring that up to you guys.
Well, Pete, just to add to that, we just got to remember it's we all agree with that. As long as you're criticizing the game,
Yes.
something related to the game, yes, you don't go there and you do personal attacks to the guy. Now, the problem is very often people think you saying that he's a bad player for the national team is a personal attack, which it's
Right.
not a personal attack. Saying someone's bad at their job is not a personal attack, as long as you have something to back it as well, right? You don't want to just walk around saying stuff the same way you don't want to also just walk around saying that guy's great, which we see that very often. We also saw just some double standards throughout criticism, right? The media is okay if you burn out an European-based player, but they'll go on and defend some of the MLS guys, right? Luca De La Torre was judged based off where he played, while MLS guys, they claim we judge where they play. So the problem with the media in the United States, including that article right there, which I didn't read. So based on what Marcus said, that's actually fairly reasonable. No personal attacks, but if you want to judge our game, fine. That's what they're here for. Perfect with that.
And I think it's a good reminder too, because there are those folks that do cross the line comparing.
Yeah, they cross the line with
that.
me too. I've
Absolutely.
been told to go back to my country. I've been told that I look Mexican. I shouldn't be supporting the US, even though I'm Brazilian American. I've been called ISIS of Twitter. I've been called a moron, an idiot. I've been even getting death threats on Twitter at times, or at least threats of getting punched by some fans. So yeah, we deal with it. But here's the thing. I'm not going to take these people seriously. I respect Zardes and all these guys for also dealing with this, and probably they deal with it in even a much higher scale than me because I am just this little guy. They're a player for the national team, but dude, there's gonna be idiots out there. Hopefully, eventually, one day in humanity's history, they go away. We're not there yet. There's still percentage, and the problem is, if there's 1 million soccer fans, all you need is 2% to be idiots, and they'll make noise.
Exactly, and that's what's going on. And we do have to make a distinction between being mean or nasty or making threats and telling a joke. For a while, we were referring to Michael Kammerman, the guy that does the announcements before Greg speaks. And you notice he stopped doing that now. We were referring to him as the Turd because I didn't know his name. So we were just calling him the Turd. And then that got spread all over on Twitter. And now people are calling him the Turd. Now, that was just a joke. It was not meant to be nasty or mean or threatening or anything. We just didn't know his name. So we gave him a nickname.
Why did you give him that nickname? Can you explain? Because it's not like you just randomly picked the Turd.
No, I did. I randomly, on our show, I randomly said, who's that guy in the background? The Turd. And then I said it several other shows in a row. And then it went on Twitter and people were calling him the Turd. So, but it's not personal. I'm sure Michael's a great guy and he's a nice guy. But this is not a nasty thing. So jokes, are different from being actual threats. So.
Right. And it reminds me of when Jurgen Klinsmann was in charge. And I've criticized Jurgen endlessly for his tactical, deficiencies. But he said this thing that, in America, if you have a bad game on the weekend, like if Zardes has a bad game for the Columbus Crew, he'll probably be applauded off the field and be taking photos in the parking lot with fans, within an hour. Whereas in Europe, if you have a bad game.
Or mid-game like Greg.
Or mid-game. But if you have a game in Europe, you can't go to the grocery store for a week. And I'm not saying I agree with that way of being. I don't want to live in a world where Zardes can't go to the grocery store. I'm happy we don't have that, okay? But there is a vast amount of ocean between that and what we have right now. And what this article feels like to me is a disingenuous attempt by media and the powers that be to reframe criticism as some kind of personal attacks. So instead of, but it's basically reframing the argument. If you say you're just bad for the fans, you're for these players, then you don't have to answer the criticisms. You don't have to respond. You don't have to engage in dialogue. You just reframe the argument as these toxic fans making the players' lives difficult. Fans bad, only be nice. That's what it feels like to me. Yeah. And fundamentally disagree with that on so many levels. I think we need the pressure. I think we need more, not more, but I think the criticism is fair, to be honest, that has been leveled towards a lot of players in the Federation and Gregg.
I don't think the article intended that, but I think it was weaponized by that group. I talked with Justin this week about toxicity and how that is, in my opinion, been completely misused in the U.S. Fan base. To, if you don't agree with me, you are toxic.
Right.
If you're not going with the status quo of ABC, this player is great, or you're not saying those things, then you are by default toxic. I think people weaponize the article. I don't think I got that from reading the article. It did address club versus country, and a couple of the players mentioned, you screw up on your club, you got that next Saturday to kind of figure it out and fix it. When you make a mistake on the national team, that lasts for months, sometimes 6 months. If you miss the next window, you're cut. They were talking about the longevity of the impact, but I don't think they were doing it in such a way to say don't do it or whining about it. They were just painting the picture. And I think it was just trying to humanize the players more than soften. I didn't get the sense that the writer was attempting to do that. I think it was weaponized by people that read it or didn't read it and used it.
That's fair, because I did not read it. I'm reacting to the way it's being used on Twitter. So I'm probably reacting more to the way, like you said, it's being used than the actual article. Tack?
Yeah, one thing before we move on from this topic too, because I know you didn't want to spend too much time on it. And one thing I noticed, every time there's like someone cursing me out on the DMs on Twitter or thread, it's like, remember when we were in Kansas, guy said, I better not find you in Kansas City, boy. I was like, all right. So when I get these like messages or anything, and I'm sure the players, it's similar, it's usually like an anonymous account with like a random like cartoon picture and a weird ass name. And just like, dude, these people are just complete idiots at this point. You just ignore that and wish them the best. Hope they mature up eventually.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm not going to lie. I do think that Tack and I, and probably you too, Derek, and maybe even you, Marcus, I don't know, have received similar or worse things from people who disagree with us on social media or in YouTube comments. Like, I just ignore those people because I know they're probably sad people who don't have lives and maybe have some trauma that they're projecting onto, the world. And I'm not making $2 million a year. So I'm not saying that should justify it, but I just think that as a grown adult, you can differentiate between fair criticism and just somebody like vomiting their hate on you and ignore it, because I don't know. I think it's blown out of proportion. But Tack, you didn't give your rating yet for the window.
I'm going to be quick because we had too much time. C-, because the way I see this was we didn't get anything done in Canada. One, it wasn't a dominant performance. It was a bad performance. We lost. The 2 home games, it was iffy against El Salvador. We got the home wins. But here's the thing. If we didn't win any of those games, if we even had a draw with one of those games, it would have been an F window. And we would have been in big trouble for the next one if it had happened. I'm giving it a C-, and it might even be generous. I know it sounds harsh because, you got 6 points out of 9, but this was our easiest window of them all. Yeah. 2 opponents that are pretty much eliminated, and El Salvador, good coach, but lacks on quality. Honduras, no good coach, no quality, no desire to play, and we almost froze them throughout the game to try to help out, try to freeze them. So it's a C-, man. It wasn't good. And then you go to Gregg's press conferences, some attitudes throughout the game. It wasn't good. And I hope it improves next camp. I just haven't seen that happen. If anything, this one seemed like we took a step back on this one compared to other camps, actually.
Yeah. Okay, you brought up Canada. That's sort of the next talking point here. And this is the game where I really saw after this game a real united voice. There were very few people, minus some pseudo-intellectual types, but you know what I mean, who were not furious at not only the result of the game, but the way we played and then the way the coach tried to justify it, right? Derek, quickly, what are your thoughts on this, on the whole situation up in Canada?
Quickly, okay, all right. Well, when you've got, we know the standards. Herc's gonna not like that. We know Herc's not gonna like that. We know. But when you've got like Jimmy Conrad coming after you, Stephen A. from ESPN, I already mentioned Wilbon and Kornheiser from Pardon the Interruption, that's also known as PTI. And Taylor Twellman was hedging. He wanted to, but he just couldn't go there. You got problems about saying that it was a dominant performance. So that's all I got to say. It was not a dominant performance. And I don't know how anyone could think that. I mean, unless you're just a stat geek and you're just like, okay, we had more possession. Look, we had more shots. Oh, we had more of the ball. But we lost 2-0. No, that's not dominant. I'm sorry. And that's it.
Yeah, I agree. Marcus.
I can speak on behalf of the stat geeks and no, still don't think it was a dominant performance. I will say this, like I gave a little bit more knowing that you're going into this game. Canada, I'm Irish, Ireland, nobody wants to play Ireland because they sit back, they camp, and they try to win 1-0 games. And the absolute worst thing you can do is give up a goal to Ireland early in the match. We did it. I don't blame Berhalter for Turner and Robinson not having a good game. Now you could argue, we could have Brooks there. We could have, done a couple of things. Stefan was out, Turner was going to make that punt. So you say you're down 1-0, but you don't stick to exactly the same game plan against a team like that that's camped out. Like you just can't do it. You have to adjust. You have to try things, throw your game plan out. It's like, look, these guys are going to camp and park the bus and try and stuff this. And that goes all the way back to the roster. You look at a PFOC, you look at a Conrad, you look at a couple of guys that maybe could have tried something different, brought something different. Don't want to blame him too much for Weah not being able to cross the border. I put that on USF. They said that they looked into it before they went, whether they hoped that he was going to get a free pass or whatnot. We're already down Reyna. Like to me, like you're immensely missing an opportunity against a team that you should have walked in the door knowing what could potentially happen and have some sort of plan to do it. In my opinion, watching the game, if Adams doesn't go down there, I don't think we sub. There was nobody warming up at that point. He immediately, when Adams gets hurt, throws 3 guys in. I was at that Canada game in Nashville, and he did the exact same. He waited till the 83rd minute, said he had no problem with the game. Then doubles down after the game, watches again, triples down after the game that we dominated, and there was nothing wrong with the gameplay like that. To me, like I give him the goal. Like Canada has been tough. They played everybody tough. A couple players made a mistake. I'll give you that. But he showed nothing, absolutely zero in that game to show me that he's figured anything out with some of the biggest problems that we've had so far in this window.
Can I just jump in there real quick? I mean, okay, people are saying, oh, Canada's the best team in Concacaf. That's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Just look at the paper, folks. Look at the paper. Look at the paper. Look at the names on this paper. Then look at the names on the Canadian paper. You put those, and then you're missing Eustaquio, and you're missing, Davies, and you're telling me we shouldn't win that game? On paper, we should win it every 9 out of 10 times. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous.
And I think no, sorry, go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just saying that's ridiculous. I just had to bring it up.
I think that for a lot of people, they could say, oh, they're the best team because they're top of the table. And it's like they're the best at getting the most out of limited resources. That's what Canada is the best at. That's all we want from Gregg Berhalter. No one's asking you to go win the World Cup, right? We want you to get the best you possibly can out of the greatest generation of players we have ever had. The most talented. Greatest, is a different definition for that. But definitely the most talented. And he's not. And to your point about him doubling down, Marcus, and tripling down, I speculated after the Canada game that perhaps he was trying to protect the players. But somebody brought up, and they were right, that that's not how you protect players. If you're protecting players, you take the blame. The coach says, the boys did their best. I didn't set us up tactically the best for success, but I can't blame any of the guys. They executed exactly what I wanted them to do. Or at the very least, he could have said, listen, I'm very happy with the intent of how the boys wanted to play. Perhaps, today we could have been better about, adding variance to our attack or finding different ways to break a team down. You can still compliment the players and say they did what you asked and also point out some reasons why we weren't that good, And for him to just be like, no, it was dominant. It's over. He was trying to tell Jenny Chu, it's already done. Don't stop. Like 2 minutes after the game, he's telling Jenny Chu not to talk about the game. It's over. It's done. It's just started in the past. No, it's not, Greg. It's not in the past.
Exactly.
Like, are you just like so dismissive of both the media and the fans? No, you don't know what you're talking about.
It's still on the table, right? The points are there.
Yes.
They're still there.
The dishes haven't even been washed yet. The dinner was just over. And, it takes me back to Dare Baker, right? It's Jurgen Klinsmann again. Never, ever admitted anything was wrong, ever.
So, Pete, a couple of things about Canada. one to say right away. I'm going to say one thing about Greg in regards to Canada, one thing to give credit to Canada as well. So the first thing about Greg is that I've noticed between both teams is Derek pointed out that Canada changes their tactics depending on the opponent. So the way they faced Honduras was similar to how they faced the U.S. They let Honduras have the ball, killed them in transition. The way they faced El Salvador was a little bit different. They held a little bit more possession and tried to create a little bit more. And then at the second half, Tejan Buchanan, Laren came in and it changed the game, and they were able to pull that win away as well. What I've noticed is the Canadian players, and you see this in the field, the level of belief. They believe Herdman's tactics. It's like, what Herdman told me to do today, I believe it'll work. And they go with it and they work with it. It seems like the American players are a little insecure and unsure in the field in regards to Gregg's tactics. It's not just us. And you see it. It's a little iffy. Players are kind of looking like robots at times. It doesn't look like a team that looks. So they don't believe Gregg's tactics. I know someone's going to say, how do you prove that? Well, you can't really prove it because it's not math, but you can see it in the game. The Canadian players, no matter what strategy it is, they go, Herdman said that's how we're going to play. And clearly they believe it and they execute it. It doesn't look like it works that way for Gregg. The second thing I want to say is, then it's completely off topic about Canadian success. We saw with Canada this window, nothing related to Gregg now, the importance of you having one or two players that can actually put the ball in the back of the net, right? Nice. Every game, Laren or David, when Canada's struggling, they would go there, boom, goal. Something Mexico has struggled with because Raul Jimenez is not the same. The United States has struggled with because we haven't really found that consistent goal scorer. So that is something that it's not really on Gregg, even though playing Zardes is not going to resolve that, but it's not on Gregg because we don't have that. But we need to have a guy that can put the ball in the back of the net. Every team needs that. If you want to be successful, you need that. We don't have that.
Well, they also play two up top.
Well, they also played one. They played two. Regardless, David and Laren, if you give them enough opportunities, they can put it on the back of the net, and they've done it this window. And they've done it in the past. Laren scored on us also back in September, right? So we need to figure that out. We need a 9. We don't have it. Pepe's not in the best form. Zardes should have been long gone. Maybe try Pifak again. I
agree with you, Tak. I agree that we don't have a striker, but I think a lot of our problems have been about chance creation as well. Like, it's not just that we're creating endless chances and we have no one to finish them. Like, to me, there's a real problem creating chances too, even if you have a 9.
We don't create.
That's what I'm saying. So if you're not creating, having a 9,
but
somebody who can
if you
score
go to
goals.
the Honduras game, Pepe, for example, had a decent opportunity. Not the best, but a decent one, and he couldn't even hit the target. I know it deflected, but David and Laren, I always say this, to score, you need to hit the target. Laren and David very often hit the target. David missed opportunities this camp, but he hit the goal. The goalkeeper saved it. You got to hit the target or you're not going to score. We're not even hitting the target when we get random chances. We don't. Or
Jesus Ferreira from 2 yards out against El Salvador.
You need to hit the target. If the goalkeeper makes a brilliant save, so be it. It can happen, but hit the freaking target. We're not hitting it.
Yeah, I do think Pifak should at least be considered. He's the only one scoring for club. I do think that we knew what we had in Zardes. And even if you think that Pepe is not in great form, he's the only one that has scored consistently for us. He's got 3 goals, 3 assists. He's the only striker that's been on the pitch when we scored more than 1 goal. He's the only one in this entire World Cup qualifying. To me, you at least have to take that shot. We know what we had in Zardes, and I'm not picking on the guy, to the point that we brought up earlier. It's like Gregg keeps calling in guys that we know are not getting results. And there are other people out there, Hoppy, not in great form, but it's like none of these guys have played in months. How do you not at least experiment or look for a solution in an area that is clearly a problem for us? And that I do blame on Gregg, although I agree with you that we're not scoring goals. We don't have anybody that's owned that position yet.
Yeah. Guys, 9 points for Canada in this last window. We have been told repeatedly by many different sources that this is not something that is basically unachievable. Like, you don't go expecting a 9-point window. It's almost impossible. That you don't understand how hard Concacaf is to get results away from home. It's brutal. You have too high expectations. You're probably toxic as well. John Herdman didn't get this memo somehow. Like, he didn't get the win at home, draw away memo
without his best player.
without two of his three best players.
Eustáquio played the last one. Yeah, played the last one.
Right. Okay. So he went 2 away games and won. Boom, in a single window after beating a tough team. The U.S. is still a tough team at home. Is it time to start changing how we think about CONCACAF? Are we prisoners of the wrong mindset? Thoughts?
Absolutely, we are. I've been watching this shit for 30 years. Sorry, I probably shouldn't swear on the show, but
No,
come on. This is ridiculous. This is not, we're not in the 80s anymore, guys. This is not the 90s. It's not even the 2000s anymore. We are in 2020, 2022. This is a whole different thing.
The year for a second.
Yeah, I know, me too. But, we got to change our mentality. This is ridiculous that we're still thinking, okay, well, it's just we're going to go somewhere where it's hot and swarmy and they let the grass grow too long and they had goats on the field the day before. We're past that at this point. We have, again, look at the paper, folks. Look at where our players are playing. We've got to stop this mentality. We should be able to go away at El Salvador and beat them 3-0, 2-0, whatever it is. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. Now, if you would have told me in 1990s, yes, we're going to go abroad. It's going to be hard. We're going to struggle. I'm fine with it. But, even teams in the 90s, we went to and beat all the way down there in South America in a big ass tournament. We beat we beat Argentina or was it Brazil? I can't even remember.
It was Argentina, I think.
Yeah, Copa America. So yeah, this is just I mean, and then for Gregg to actually say, yeah, well, the math is you win at home, you get ties away. Stop with that. Go out and get an occasional win away. Occasionally. Let's do that.
And it's not just Gregg. You have our mainstream media agreeing with and propagating that whole mentality. This is very common. We've seen this a lot. Marcus, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think even in 18, and I think I said this last time we talked, MLS All-Stars should beat most of CONCACAF. And we're multiple degrees above that, with several of our European-based players. So when it comes to El Salvador opening game, a draw, I mean, that's embarrassing. Losing away to Panama, embarrassing. Now, you look at a Canada that hunkers down. I agree with you guys. Like the gap is huge, but I can see that. I think there's belief on that side. They've got a stud striker that's bearing the ball right now, left back that's on fire. A couple of key positions. Mexico is always going to be a battle. It'll be tough to win in Azteca. But the gap between us and most of that group, it should be enormous. I get that Reyna was out. I get that Pulisic has not been there the whole time. We had to pull McKinney. There's been some inconsistency on the attacking side of the ball. But I also hold USF and Gregg accountable not to set that up walking into World Cup qualifying. I mean, how many times do we fly legit to Europe when we had an opportunity to fish for Luka and others and get that depth set up and that cohesion offensively? Clearly, I think we defensively, he's shown that he's got some strengths there. That back line has been together for almost a year and a half. He does not seem to figure out the offensive side of the ball. So while I agree, and Filippo made a great point, we don't have that closer. Pulisic has some inconsistencies with club, getting on the pitch. Some of the guys that we would normally lean on. We didn't have Way and Reyna away to Canada. Some key guys were missing, and we have not figured out striker. That's not necessarily on Gregg, but he also hasn't hunted. He hasn't built that cohesion, that belief on the attacking side of the ball, that system, that plan. Even just scoring the 2 set pieces, like how have we not found somebody put BA on the corner and just have them hammering corners, and hammering free kicks? Like how have we not figured out somebody in this system with the talent we have to work at set pieces? So I do fault him for not having set himself up for success, even though it's a young team and there are valid excuses. There's not great strikers. We were rusty. I felt like that first window, kind of getting things figuring out CONCACAF, but the gap is there, and we've got to start showing that.
And did you see when Gregg was asked about how do you beat a low block? I
didn't see it.
Presser, he froze. He had no answer. I mean, he gave one eventually, but he seriously had zero answer to that question.
So
it's unbelievable
because he was still figuring out whether or not they were playing in a low block. See, how you can't think about the answers when you're still trying to figure out the problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
So Pete and Marcus in there, I think the way the United States has to start facing, I actually said this on Twitter, I think before qualifiers started, and some people thought it was a joke because they started to take me out of context and think I was saying Brazil and Argentina are the same level as the United States, which we're not at the level of Brazil and Argentina. We would probably lose 8 out of 10 games against them, especially with the coach we have right now, or more. My whole point was the U.S. has to face Concacaf, which I said months ago, just like how Brazil and Argentina face CONMEBOL, right? The mentality is, yeah, you're not going to win every single away game, right? You're going to face some toughness, and sometimes the low blocks are hard to break, and you don't find a way, and sure, you draw it. But the mentality has to be, I'm going away to win every single game, including Mexico. Brazil, when they go to Argentina, the mentality is not to draw Argentina, it's to beat them. In Argentina, when they go to Brazil, the mentality is let's go to beat Brazil, which are the two giants of CONMEBOL. And when they go away against any other team, they don't go to Ecuador because there's the altitude. It's like, okay, if we pull a draw here in the altitude, it's all right. No, we go there to win. And if you happen to draw, so be it. It can happen. We know that happens in soccer. Now, the U.S., it seems like it's the other way around. We go away, and it's kind of like, yeah, let's just try to grind out a draw. If we lose, it's okay. If somehow we win for some miracle, we will celebrate it. It shouldn't be that way in CONCACAF. We are levels above, besides Canada and Mexico, because those are two teams we're not levels above. But we should go away against Canada and Mexico, and the mentality has to be a winning mentality. It's like, we're coming here to win. We're not coming here to tie the game with you. If you guys pull a win or a tie here, congratulations to you. But we have this like underdog mentality stuck in our head, even when we play national teams that are far weaker. And that has been very hard to deal with. And honestly, it's not even the fan base's fault. I think the fan base has shifted quite a bit in that. Our media is a big problem in that because they support it. Right? Gregg Berhalter supports that. I don't think
Berhalter talks about it in press conferences, right? He said that before. We need to try and go get a point away.
Let me ask you guys one question. Why is it okay for us to draw El Salvador away? Why is it okay?
I'll tell you where this comes from, Tak, and this is what you have to understand about the U.S. For many years, the U.S. was a terrible team, right? Still pretty good in CONCACAF. And our expectations, probably fairly based on the player pool that we had and where soccer was in the country for a long time, was to try to do well in Gold Cups and qualify for the World Cup. Qualify. All right? Whatever you do at the World Cup, that's a bonus. You got out of your group, oh my God, let's party in the streets. Just getting to the World Cup is considered success. All right? That's what America should be. Now, all this math, whoa, let's win at home, draw away, is based on that framework of let's qualify for the World Cup. If Brazil finished third in, South American qualifying and went to the World Cup, their fans would be furious, right? They would be like, what a joke. We're terrible. In America, we'll celebrate. Trust me.
They're saying that right now, by the way, at first.
And you're first. Exactly. Yeah. So the mentality is qualifying for the World Cup equals success. What we need to do, and what I think is already happening, is based on the player pool that we have now. Fans are going, that's not good enough anymore. That's not good enough. We should be qualifying in first, and that's the absolute bare minimum. And then when you get there, we're going to have some expectations for you based on the player pool we have now. Culturally, there's a shift in fan base in America based on the growth of the game, based on where our, who our players are now, and the media and the federation haven't caught up. So you have fans saying, hey, that's not good enough. And media go, oh, you're toxic. How can you put these expectations? You know what I mean? Like, that's what's happening. It's a cultural thing. It's eventually going to keep shifting, I believe. Like I think it's going to keep shifting, but it's taking time. And we're at the precipice right now of fans throwing the rope over their shoulder and pulling the wagon up the hill and saying, no, we can and should be better.
When there's change, there's turmoil. When the establishment is changing, there's always turmoil for anything in life. So I think that's the process we're at right now.
And right now, people are still partying like it's 1999 in the press. And
you are
with Greg.
No, I'm not the press, not just in life, right?
No, no, I stopped partying probably 10 years ago, but that's where we're stuck mentally. And then this whole idea that Gregg's main goal in his slideshow was that we're going to change the way the world views American soccer. That's not the goal, Gregg. That'll happen if you actually do well.
Yeah.
That's your goal.
Go back to 2009 Confederations Cup when we beat Spain and we were up 2-0 at halftime. I lived in South Africa at that time, and I was
amazing.
down there, and the South Africans were like, "Man, you guys are legit." Like their mentality was totally shifted watching us beat Spain. There were European clubs that studied that game and how to tackle Spain in the next World Cup, studying the U.S.
They did
tactically on how they handled Spain at that time in 2009, 2010. And we had 2-3 guys on that team that were at the caliber that we're at now. Now, granted, Dempsey's burying balls, Landon's burying balls. I don't think this young group has found those couple of consistent finishers, but we're knocking at the door. We're scratching at the door of shifting global belief. But like you said, it's from results. It's not from talk.
And who really care? I mean, maybe I'm old and I really just don't give a rat's behind what the rest of the world thinks of American soccer. In fact, I hope they think we suck. And they come every time we play them, they're like, "Oh, these guys are horrible. So we'll just kind of, not play real hard."
Well,
I don't care. I don't.
No, your point is valid, Derek. You change people's minds change automatically by good performances and good results. Like that's just the truth. Guys, we've talked a lot about, a lot of negative things that happened in this last window. Let's do a round and just talk about some positive takeaways, even if there aren't, maybe hundreds. Let's just do a round and see what can we take away that we can hold on to from a positive point of view. Tack, you want to start?
Me? We're still top 3. We're in second. Regardless of what I said, that the next window is tricky and our situation is not as comfortable as the table projects, right? The table makes it seem like 3 games left, 4 points ahead. They should be fine. But no, it's a little bit tricky. We do we like the Panama game at home. If we don't win that, I'm having mini heart attacks. If we don't win that game. Yes. I'm freaking out if we don't win that game. But we're still in second. We're still only depending upon ourselves to qualify to Qatar. And I think the best thing in life is when you only depend on yours, right? When you don't need someone else to win another game for you to make it through. Let's hope it keeps it that way. So I still think that's a positive, in my opinion.
I agree. Derek?
I got a bunch of mini positives.
Okay.
All right. They're small, and I'll go through them. Pulisic got a wake-up call on his hero ball. Basically, even Gregg said in the presser, we don't really need one guy to really do the hero thing for us. So hopefully he got that message. McKennie is just continuing to be the bulldog. I mean, he's a badass, and that's frankly obvious at this point. De La Torre got to play. Holy mother of God. He got to play, and he played well, and he did all the things that we've been saying he could do. He did them on the field. He took the ball from our third into their third, dribbled it all the way up the field numerous times. I hope that's a wake-up call to Gregg. And we just figured out that Kellen Acosta might be, outside of Reyna, who doesn't play for us anymore because he's constantly injured, the best set-piece kicker that we have. So those are my positives.
Good ones.
Wait. I'm going to actually question one thing here.
All right, go for it.
Is Kellen Acosta being our second best set-piece taker a positive?
That is actually a negative. We did figure out the Pulisic cannot
because he's not a starter, and he's not going to be a starter. At least I hope not, because he's so inconsistent with playing. So having him as our second best set-piece taker, which I agree with you, from what we've seen, he probably is our second best. Is that a positive?
It's not, because we don't play with the high school soccer rules. Because in high school soccer, you just, it's like basketball.
Put him in
and then sub him out.
That would be a fun game to watch. Marcus.
I think scoring set piece goals, like just to get that, off our shoulder. I understand the situation, but to at least do one, kind of gives you something to hold on to if you needed it, late in the game. It gives you something different. Luka obviously is huge. We've struggled to find a way to displace Musa and McKennie in a game where they need rest. I think bringing him in gives us an alternate option there. I am hoping Reyna's healthy. He's looks like he's back. That gives him a little bit of runway. Sounds like Chris Richards should be back here soon. So I think, assuming, hopefully no injuries over the next couple of weeks, we should have a pretty strong group. And in my mind, I want to do more, but knowing that we only have to win one home game against a team that I think is starting to fade. I think they overextended themselves early. You know, we've got a 4-point gap now. We'll see how the window plays out. But only having to win one game at home to qualify, I don't having seen them in 2 finals now, home against Mexico, I think the boys will step up regardless of the tactics and get the job done when we need it. So I feel confident in them, even though I have some issues around how we'll do in the window, how we'll do overall. I do think we'll get the job done from that perspective.
Pete,
I agree with you. I think we will get the job done.
Pete, can we just add one thing to Marcus so people don't say we're misleading information? Winning at home against Panama doesn't mathematically qualify us. What Marcus meant was if we beat Panama, all we need is for Costa Rica to drop points in one game, and then mathematically we're there. So we're assuming that home win is enough, and it should be, unless you think Costa Rica will get 9 points in the window. Right. But yeah, Pete, sorry.
Right. No, you're fine.
True.
You're right. I agree with all of you guys. I think you mostly nailed the positives, the positive takeaways. I want to highlight 2 more. One is the gradual disappearance of some of Gregg's favorites from playing minutes. They're still in rosters and they're still getting, sub minutes. Roldan and Areola especially have been getting got minutes in this camp. Zardes is still getting massive minutes for better or for worse. But Leggett has disappeared. In the last 2 rosters, he got 0 minutes. And I think that's encouraging. I'm hopeful that that process can continue. These guys who have not been performing will be phased out, just like guys like John Brooks and Josh Sargent and other guys who've been kicked off the team for lack of performance. I'm hoping in 2022 that standard now applies across the board and not just to a few guys playing in Europe. The other positive was I thought our players were very professional about how they handled that Minnesota game, right? That was to put our like Lamborghini players through that. These guys who I just can't. Augsburg spends 20 million on Ricardo Pepi to try to save them from relegation. And we put him in a very high risk situation where he could get a muscle injury and wreck that. And, Pulisic in the game, the fact that I don't want to go off about this because we all have, but the way they handled it was we can't do anything about it right now. The important thing is to get the job done, and they did. And even the complaining that we saw from them afterwards was very mild. Reggie Cannon and Tim Weah were like, guys, let's not do that again. But I thought they were very professional for, the way they handled that whole situation. Last question, guys.
Did you
go
see,
ahead, Derek.
by the way, did you see De La Torre in his presser after the game?
I did.
And they asked him, what, blah, blah, blah. You finally got called up. And he's like, yeah, I should have been called up before anyhow.
Yeah.
I should have played long before this. That was a poked out. He was poking Gregg's little eyeball there. Beep, 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 beep. I like that about
Greg
him.
For a while.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's not unfit next window.
Yeah. He has edge to him, right? He's like, you guys are not watching Heracles. That's what it felt like to me. He's like, I do this for my club every week.
Yep.
Greg's going to say, yeah, we didn't bring De La Torre because we've been watching Heracles closely and he doesn't look like he's in form. So we kept him out.
I will personally riot if he's not in the next roster. But guys, let's talk real briefly about this next window coming up. It's massive. We've talked about, just get that win in Panama. True. If we get that win in Panama, we might very likely, get, qualified. Is third place? If we qualify in third, we might beat Mexico. I would love to beat Mexico in Azteca. That would be amazing. We haven't done that, I think, maybe once in our history, beating Mexico in Azteca, or ever, maybe never.
I think we have. Yeah,
I think we've gotten draws in Azteca, and that's it. I would love to do it. Is third place good enough if we lose to Mexico, lose to Costa Rica, and beat Panama? Is that good enough not to qualify for the World Cup, but is that good enough to have a successful qualifying campaign?
Who's managing the team, Pete?
Oh, Gregg.
That's right. So, yeah, at this point, I'm taking third, and I'm going to be nervous. My boots are going to be shaking, and my knees are going to be knocking against each other. Yeah, this is going to be nervous city, folks. If we do not, for some reason, beat Panama at home, we are in there is a serious situation here, folks.
Yeah.
So, at this point, I'm just going to take third because I've seen all the other windows. I know what we're doing. I know, is it acceptable? No, it shouldn't be. But at this point, I just want to get through this. I mean, and still be breathing at the end.
I get that.
Pete, I think the way to face it right now is when you're in a bad situation in life, you kind of just want to get through it. And then after, you'll look back and maybe adjust what has or point out the mistakes. Not making it to this World Cup is the end of U.S. soccer because, I mean, yeah, people are going to say this is too dramatic. Okay, yeah, sure. It's not going to be the end, right? We're still going to be watching, playing soccer, and it'll live on. But the implications of missing this World Cup and leading into a World Cup at home where the hype will be unexistent at that point because people are just like, why should I care? You're only qualifying to this one because you're the host. Otherwise, you probably would have missed this one too. You missed 3 in a row. You don't qualify to the Olympics, missing 2 World Cups. So it just can't happen. So at this point, I just want us to qualify. 4th is unacceptable. We need to get that top 3. Qualify. Once it's done, let's look back into this window, and I can assure you that regardless of the outcome of next camp, which I firmly believe it's going to be qualifying, it wasn't a good qualifier. It wasn't to the best of the potential of this team. It wasn't. Even if we win all 3 games next window, which probably won't happen, but it wasn't good. It wasn't, right? But right now, look, I'm worried, cautiously optimistic, but worried. Let's just qualify, please.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I agree. I think getting 9 points, I still wouldn't feel like it was a good qualification overall. It'd be a strong way to finish. It'd be a good way to go out. I expect us to push at Azteca and not lean entirely on the home game. I just think you want to hedge your bets a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know that playing away to Costa Rica is any better, and you don't want to leave it, to the last game, to the last match for anything, any injury or anything. So I expect us to push. And not just, give Mexico a gimme opening window. But yeah, I don't think it's redeemable at this point. So getting top 3, it's functional. It gets the job done. The job of qualification is to qualify. You can clean up your messes later. Good teams would clean up their messes later and figure things out.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is interesting is having broken away from some, we no longer have that MLS money. So if we miss this World Cup economically, this has the potential. I don't know the numbers or the data behind that, but if we think about that, we are relying entirely on making this World Cup and some of that TV money and some of those things that come with that. So the economic impact to our organization, our ability to take care of our players moving forward, the medical staff, all of those things, there are major implications beyond the shame and embarrassment of not making this World Cup. So I can see where, being wise and making sure, you make sure you qualify, being one of those top 3 spots, there's huge implications to missing that beyond even just fans being pissed.
Will we qualify, guys?
Yeah.
Yes, but let's be real about this. All right. This has been like this is like a bad date that started at 5 p.m. and we're verging on midnight here, right? And we've got Mexico first. Very likely we might lose that game. Then we go and play Panama at home. We should win that game, but what if we don't? Then we're playing Costa Rica, who could be battling for a spot in that last. This is, I mean, come on. This is serious stuff, man.
This is worse. Let me just say one thing. Look, let's stop being, I'm not going to say pessimistic. Let's believe that we will get the job done at home and possibly a draw at Mexico. But if we do get to the Costa Rica game, needing a draw at least to qualify, this is worse than Cuba, because in Cuba, Trinidad was a worse team than the Costa Rican side. Costa Rica's experience, and Costa Rica will actually have something to fight for at home, and we never beat them at home, have we?
All these teams have something to play for. All of them.
Ours, yes.
Mexico's under pressure too, right? I mean, they have to get that win. They're not exactly in a good spot at home. Tata's job is like on the line. Like they have to qualify. In fact, I actually think there's a higher chance Mexico won't qualify than us, and maybe that's obnoxious.
No, Pete, the matchups, their matchups are easy after.
Yeah, but they've taken easy matchups and botched them too. So
I get it.
Not on this one though.
El Salvador and Honduras have nothing to play for.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I think. Look, I said this on my video. I actually do think I'm 99% sure we're going to qualify. But I think Mexico is going to finish ahead of the United States.
We'll see.
I had them tied with us at 21 points after doing the math. If we lose, win, and tie.
Yeah.
But it's nerve-wracking. I got to tell you guys, I can't believe we're going through this again.
Oh,
I really can't.
Well, guys, I hope this was therapeutic for you watching in some way. Derek turned this into you're like the psychological villain in the horror show,
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
shows up and it's like, but what if we don't?
Pete,
And honestly,
saying
after
we're gonna
that Canada
qualify.
game, I was like, what am I going to do if we don't? You know what I mean? I was like considering the possibilities. Like, this is going to be a horror show.
Pete, end it saying we're going to qualify just so everyone that leaves the video is not depressed after this.
No,
Just
guys,
say
I really
that
do
and
believe it.
close
And
it.
I don't think we're just trying to be positive, guys. I think we have the quality to qualify, even despite Gregg Berhalter. That's the truth. Gio Reyna's coming back by the next window, hopefully. It seems like that'll be in my opinion, a huge boost to this team that badly needs it. Hopefully he's used well. But I think we'll get there, guys. I think we will be in Qatar. After this, we can talk about what we need to do in Qatar, but let's get this next window done. Any last thoughts, guys?
Yes, we are going to beat Panama at home because I'll be at the stadium. I'll make sure we win.
Excellent. And if people want to come after this segment for being negative, or just come after me. I'm the villain. I'm fine with it. I can handle it. I got big boy pants. Yeah.
You're no Hitler, though. Let's be honest.
No.
All right, guys. Marcus, any last thoughts?
No, I think we're going to qualify. I think the boys have stepped up. I said it, that we beat Mexico 3 times. I know we haven't shown consistency, but we've stepped up in big games, and I expect that again from the guys, regardless of tactics. I think they're going to deliver. I think they're going to be pissed. I think they're going to come hungry. Guys like Wes, Pulisic, like they're ready to make a statement. Hopefully they will.
Agreed. Guys, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'll see you all next week.
See ya.
Oh, and please go follow these guys. Tack on YouTube, Marcus O'Malley, Derek Rishi on YouTube, The Straight Red Card, chasingacup.com, Chasing a Cup on Twitter. You also have a YouTube channel now, Marcus. So give these fine gentlemen a follow, a subscribe. This is the media that you should be paying attention to. Have a great one, guys.